Welcome everyone to the channel. I'm Biggie Sweats and today I'm bringing you the beastie Unholy Death Knight Dragonflight guide. This is going to show you how to deal monstrous damage with the brand new talents, covenants and legendaries and stat priors that you need to make yourself a beast in PvE. Now make sure you like and subscribe on this channel and check us out on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 p.m. BST onward. Let's jump straight into this. Boom. Now, let's start off by saying there is multiple ways to play every class and spec in WoW right now, with the Prepatch talents and the Dragonflight talents being created. So there are two main builds that I see people running, and that is the main default build, which plays a lot like Shadowlands Unholy build, and then there is the disease build, in which you need a specific ring of Anduin to make work. We're going to start by talking about the default build that is used primarily for raiding on Death Knight. So you're going to be going into the Covenant of Necrolord. You're going to be taking Plague Deviser Merilith as your soulbind. Now, Necrolord is generally the best option for the standard build in all scenarios. Abomination Limb with Brutal Grasp and Abomination's Frenzy is a really powerful combination, in addition to having a really solid soulbind. Now, I'm going to go into the talents and stat rotation that you need to make this default build work. Now, the legendaries, which I forgot to mention, we need to go into first. The legendaries for Unholy raiding default build is going to be Frenzied Monstrosity, which is picked up from the world boss Nurgash Muck form. So go out and grab that if you haven't already. You want to combo this with the Necrolord Unity. You're going to be wanting to make the Frenzied Monstrosity on your cloak with Mastery in Haste, and the Unity on your neck with Mastery Crit. These are going to be your legendaries for raiding with Unholy, the default build. Now we're going to shrink ourselves down into mini sweats, and I'm going to go through each one of these talents on a pretty quick basis. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm just going to give you the build and sort of include any information along the way that you might need to know on taking them. I don't want to go and read every single one, as you can read yourselves, but if you do want me to go more in depth and read each talent out, then I can do that. Just make sure you comment below and let me know. Now let's jump straight in to the talents. Now, on the left side of things, we have the Death Knight class talent tree. All specs will gain access to this tree. So we're going to start off by going Chains of Ice. Then we're going to go Death Strike and Raise Dead. We're going to take all three of the top line. Then we're going to go Mind Freeze, then Anti-Magic Shell, then Cleaving Strike. So all three of the next line. Now, this is where it breaks up a little bit. So we're going to go into Permafrost. Then we're going to go into Anti-Magic Barrier, then Enfeeble. From there, we're going to go into Icebound Fortitude, as you know, a massive defensive for Death Knights. Then into Veteran of the Third War. Then into Brittle. We're going to take 2 points in Veteran of the Third War, by the way. Then we're going to go into Acclamation. Then we're going to go into Merciless Strikes. We're going to take Anti-Magic Zone, which is a huge raid and dungeon helper. Then we're going to go into Might of Thasarian. One day I'll learn how to say these special names on WoW. Then we're going to go into Gloom Ward. Then we're going to take Death's Reach. Then we're going to go down into Runic Attenuation. Then we're going to go into Unholy Ground. We're going to go into Insidious Chill. Then into Death's Echo. 2 points into Icy Talons. 1 point into Unholy Bond, and your final class talent is Empower Rune Weapon, which is a huge CD, and it's awesome that all specs can now gain access to this. So that is your class talent tree for the default build of Unholy Death Knight. Now, on the right side is your spec tree. Now, this is going to change in between different talent setups that you have. Between raiding, the disease build, and the mythic dungeon build, these are going to change. So let's jump straight in. This is for raiding. So we're going to take Festering Strike. We're going to take Scourge Strike. We're going to take Raise Dead. We're going to take Outbreak. Then Dark Transformation, big CD. Then into 2 points, Improved Festering Strike. Then we're going to take Infected Claws, right down into Apocalypse, a massive CD as well for Unholy. Then we're going to take Plaguebringer. Then we're going to take Sudden Doom into Unholy Command, 2 points. Then we're going to take Magus of the Dead. Then we're going to take 2 points into Improved Death Coil. We're going to take Unholy Pact. Then Eternal Agony, Call of Devastation, Reaping, Death Rot. We're going to go into Army of the Dead because, you know, bursting huge deeps. Then we're going to go into Summon Gargoyle. Then down into the final line of Army of the Damned. And the final talent for raiding is Super Strain. Now, these are your raiding talents for the default build Death Knight. Now, I am going to be showing everything on screen. All the legendaries, the raids, the stat power, everything you need is going to be shown on screen above. Now, the Mythic Dungeon build is going to remain the same legendary and the same Covenant. You're going to be rolling Frenzied Monstrosity again and Unity on your neck for Necro Lord. They are going to remain the same. So now we're going to go into talking about your talents, because this is where things change. Now, as we look at the left side, which is your class talents, there is only one difference from your raid talents, and that it is going to be, instead of taking Death's Reach, you're going to take Grip of the Dead. This is the only swap. Death and Decay reduces the movement speed of enemies within its area for 90%, decaying by 10 seconds. Now, this is great in a Mythic Dungeon environment because you can slow and help the tank kite, or even some of your other members. Now, this is where we get the major differences on the spec side of things. Now, we're going to start with Festering Strike, down into Scourge Strike, down into Raise Dead, Outbreak, Dark Transformation. Now, this is where it gets a bit different. We're going to go into Unholy Blight, then we're going to go into Improved Festering Strike and Infected Claws. We're going to take Epidemic, Replenishing Wounds, Plaguebringer, Sudden Doom, then into Bursting Sores, then 2 points into Unholy Command, then 1 point into Improved Death Coil, then into Unholy Pact, then down into Vow Contagion, Eternal Agony, Death Rot, Army of the Dead, of course, 2 points into Festama, and your final talent is Unholy Assault. This is going to be your Mythic Dungeon setup for the default Unholy Death Knight build. Now, the other build is very different. Different Covenant, different talents, specific ring, different legendaries. Now, we're going to go over that. We are going to talk about it next, because I want you guys to know every build that is possible, and it is a very strong, viable build at that. So let's jump straight in and look at this disease build, as we're going to call it. Now, disease build. I'm sure I'm going to have that fly up at the top somewhere. But the disease build is very different. You need this specific ring of Anduin to make the disease build. It's called the Soul Warp Seal of Menethol. It drops off Anduin Rin. Your damages and spells have a chance to inflict despair upon your enemies, increasing the effect of your diseases against them by 198 for 12 seconds. You have a greater chance to inflict despair against enemies who are at a higher health. So this is needed. Without this, you cannot run the disease build. So get that. I'm going to show it at the top. Soul Warped Seal of Menethil. Once you've got that beautiful, beautiful ring, you're going to be going with the Covenant of Night Fae, and you're going to be rolling Dreamweaver as your soulbound. Night Fae is a great option when running disease, but Withering Ground works extremely well with Defile, and you gain a permanent 20% strength via Death's Uncertainty. It's a really strong setup. Now, that's the legendary that you're going to be rolling. Now, we just spoke briefly about the legendary needed for the disease build. Death's Certainty. This is what you're going to be running on your neck with Crit Mastery, followed by the Unity legendary, which is going to be built on your feet with Mastery Crit. Death's Certainty, Death Strike, and Death Coil do a 35% increased damage and reduce the remaining cooldown of Defile, Death and Decay by 2 seconds. So you're going to get this from Margrave Stradama, which is your Plaguefall boss, and it's going to just drop like that. Now that you are prepared with the ring, the Covenant, the soulband, and the legendaries you need to make this disease build work, we can now show you the talents. The left side of the tree, the class Death Knight talents are identical to what the AoE dungeon talents look like. So you can just copy off them. I won't go through them again and take up your time with that, but here's what they look like. I'll put all the codes down below anyway for you guys to see. But here is where things slightly change. So, starting with Festering Strike again, Scourge Strike, Raise Dead, Outbreak, Dark Transformation. That's always the setup for each spec here. Then Unholy Blight, Improved Festering, 1 point. Then Infected Claws, Epidemic, Replenishing Wounds, Plaguebringer, Sudden Doom, Ebon Fever, right there. 2 points into Unholy Command, 2 points into Improved Death Coil. We're going to take Defile. Defile is your main ability here. You have to have this ability or this build is pointless. Then we're going to Eternal Agony, then into Call of Devastation, Army of the Dead, 2 points into Ghoulish Frenzy, then into Army of the Damned, and finally Super Strain once again. This is your disease build. This is a very particular and special build, a very fun one to play around with. All you need is that ring. Get that ring and you're sorted for this build. Now let's throw the quick stat rotation in there. So the stat rotation for Unholy Death Knight is Strength, Haste, Mastery, Crit, Verse, in that order. That is single target. And for more AoE focused stuff, you want Strength, Mastery, Crit, Haste, Versatility. I'm going to show them both on screen. Single target and AoE. That is what you need. And right there, we have the 3 main builds for Unholy Death Knight. The default raid build, the default mythic dungeon build, and the special edition disease build that requires a special ring. Absolutely fantastic. Unholy is pumping right now. Its specs are fantastic. Unholy is great. Frost is great. And Blood Death Knight is amazing as always. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like, please subscribe, and I aim to bring you some of the best content you will ever see when Dragonflight drops. So check us out on Twitch, live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 PM BST. Until next time, peace.